Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live powered by Riverwind Casino. My name is Brandon Drumm, here with Parker Thune, Spencer Forsythe on the board. Recruiting, recruiting. We're going to talk that. We'll probably talk some roster stuff as well. We'll talk softball, talk a little baseball, obviously, if y'all want to. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to do all that right here on this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube live powered by Riverwind Casino. But before we get into all of that, obviously, Thunder Up. And then, Parker, take us home with thanking our sponsors.
Yes, that starts with Riverwind Casino, our presenting sponsor and OKC's premier gaming destination for nearly 2 decades now. Almost 3,000 electronic games, table games, bars, and dining options, plus the best live music in the metro. It's no surprise that Riverwind is always a good time. Also, want to shout out our good friends at Jana King. Jana King, of course, is a proud partner of OU Athletics and the greatest team to ever clean, delivering spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. You can check out all of their cleaning solutions at janaking.com. That's JANIKING.com. Also, folks, if you're not familiar with Brunt Workwear, if you're one of our many listeners that works outside, whether occupationally or recreationally, you're going to want to get yourself a pair of Brunt work boots. I've got a couple acres of land to maintain out here in Blanchard, and Brunt's work boots have been a revelation for me. Brunt is revolutionizing the workwear space. I'm sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought there for
Revolutionizing the workwear
revolutionizing
space.
the workwear space.
That's hard to say fast, by the
I was
way.
trying to think of the name. What are they called? The marine work boots are not only built for the toughest job sites, they're completely waterproof as well. Whether it's rain, mud, or standing water, your feet stay dry from oily workshop floors to muddy farm fields and everywhere in between. Brunt's work boots are built for workers across a variety of trades. And guess what? You can try them risk-free. That's how confident Brunt is that these work boots are above and beyond anything you've ever tried before. They know they have the best boots on the planet. They'll let you try them risk-free. And they didn't just make a durable work boot. They reinvented comfort for the hardest workers out there. So, for a limited time, our listeners are going to get 10% off, or I'm sorry, $10 off at Brunt by using code OU Insider at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com and use code OU Insider, and you're all set. Even better, Brunt lets you try all their products on the job risk-free, as I mentioned. So after you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. So please support our show and tell them we sent you. Again, bruntworkwear.com. All right, Brandon, let's get rolling.
Let's do it. Look, where do we start? Recruiting. Let's talk a little. Let's do rivals. Let's do the rivals camp. I think that is a good place to start. There was a lot of OU targets there this past weekend. And I think the it's hard to say the most important one because they're all important, but the most important position on the field is quarterback. And there were several OU, and I'm going to air quote targets because the main target is obviously Peyton Houston, but Malachi Ziegler was there. Who else was there that could be viewed as a potential OU target down the line? I guess Cason Delgado down the line if he shows out at Broken
I
Arrow.
tell you, a kid I was really, really impressed with on Sunday, and it was cool to see him out there competing, was Braylon Warren from Omaha,
He was
Nebraska.
really good. Yeah.
What's crazy is I've known Braylon Warren for literally almost his entire life. His dad, Steve Warren, who was a member of Nebraska's national championship team uh, back in the mid 90s, he might have been a part of multiple national championship teams, but he was the head coach at my high school when I was a freshman.
Warren
And so
Academy.
that's
Yep.
right. Yes, he runs
Seven
Warren
on seven.
Academy. That's his thing these days. But I knew Braylon back when he was, what, 3, 4 years old, running around the cafeteria. Now he's one of the most decorated quarterback prospects in the nation in the 2027 class. That's a
Yep.
guy that I don't know where he's going to end up. I don't know if he necessarily is the type of guy that Oklahoma's looking for, just from a scheme fit standpoint. but he is an exceptionally gifted thrower of the football and starting to collect Power Four offers on top of Power Four offers.
Yeah, I obviously the MVP ended up being Peyton Houston, and he was
Deserved it.
phenomenal. Yeah, he was phenomenal. The so I get a call from his dad the next day, and I meant to ask you if you were the one that passed on my number to him,
I
which I'm
was,
assuming.
yes.
I assumed. I assumed. And so yeah, the he had a really good workout with Jeff Christensen, who is he's Patrick Mahomes' trainer. And I know Jeff really well, and he's Baker Mayfield's trainer for you Sooners fans out there. So, and he's Jaden O'Neal's trainer. And so like he went and got a work in, and I guess they were really impressed with, some of the things that he did. Um, and there were some issues that he had that we noticed. You noticed, I noticed, everybody kind of noticed when he was throwing the ball, how he brings the ball down, all that type of stuff. And it caused him to be a little off that day. And he knew he was kind of off too. He even said, I was a little off that day, which I have to tell you, if that's an off day for him, yikes, yikes. There's a reason why Ben Arbuckle is just doing everything in his power to get this kid, much like everybody else in the country. But Oklahoma's positioned themselves really, really well for Peyton Houston. And he's not the biggest guy, but he is everything. His personality fits Oklahoma. His leadership fits Oklahoma, and Brent Venables in particular. Just his overall demeanor fits Oklahoma. And then you watch him win the MVP, and he was the MVP. Like, yeah, I thought Braylon Warren was probably number two as far as like the best days.
Hmm.
I thought Malachi Ziegler had a really good day. I was really impressed with Kaysen Delgado. I thought he had a good day. I was trying to think. Denton Geyer, 2027. Um,
Zephyr.
Zephyr,
Zephyr Cray.
Zephyr Cray had a really good day. Like those were probably the five guys I looked and I was like, bam, they were dudes. But there was a whole bunch of that 27 group. Parker is. I don't even know how to describe that class as far as quarterbacks, but it's about as deep as you can get. It's insane across the nation, period, particularly in this region. It's crazy. Very, very deep. What was your, I guess, outside of quarterbacks, what was your overall impression, takeaway from the people that you spoke with? At that, I have a few, but I wanted you to go first.
Yeah, well, first off, putting the stamp, we talked about it on the podcast too, but putting the stamp on Carter Scruggs, man,
Yeah, he's a dude.
that's a guy you'd really, really like to see in OU's 2026 class. If you're a diehard Sooner fan that wants to see that offensive line continue to get better and better and better over the next few years under Bill Bedenbaugh's direction. Carter Scruggs is a guy that's going to bring some versatility to the table. He can play tackle, he can play on the interior, but he is nasty, man.
Hmm.
Great footwork, great build, too. I mean, darn near flawless build. Kind of exactly what you want a guy to look for going into his, or to look like going into his senior year of high school. So there's a lot to like makeup wise with Carter Scruggs. By the way, if you have questions throughout the stream, send them, submit them in the YouTube chat in super chat form. Obviously, the chats pile up. We can't promise that we get to every single one of them, but we do make the promise to you every week that we will address any and all super chats. So you can attach a contribution of any amount. It can be as little as $1, I believe. Shoot, we've had people drop $100 contributions, $500 contributions. We do not expect nor ask that of any of you. But if you have a question that has to get answered, that you would like answered over the course of this stream, just drop us a super chat and we will make sure to tackle it at some point. Um, Man, that was a really good group of offensive linemen there
It
on
was.
Sunday. And Scruggs was obviously a headliner, but I'll tell you another guy that Oklahoma seems to be in really strong early shape with is he's a 3-star right now. I'm not sure how. He's a guy that's gonna see his stock rise in the recruiting rankings, no doubt. Offer wise, he's already got many of the major offers across the country. But Peyton Miller from Anna, Texas,
I thought you were
that's
going somewhere
another.
else.
What's that now?
I thought you were going another direction there.
Yeah, no, that's a
Go ahead.
guy. Peyton Miller is somebody that kind of like Carter Scruggs. It's easy to envision him playing any and all of the five positions on the offensive
Mm-hmm.
line. He's just one of those rare breeds that, physically speaking and technically speaking, he's not going to be overwhelmed no matter where you stick him. He's going to be very prepared to take on the challenge of snapping the football at center or holding down one of those interior spots at guard, or he's got the height and the length to kick outside to tackle and play a mean tackle. So really, really like where Oklahoma's at early in the process with Peyton Miller. He's been a regular visitor to Norman over the course of the last year, ever since he picked up the offer last May. He
Mm-hmm.
couldn't even remember when I talked to him. He couldn't even remember how many times he's been up to Oklahoma. He said 4 or 5, maybe 6. So obviously, it's just a 2 hour drive up I-35 from Anna. It's one of the northernmost suburbs in the DFW metroplex. Still one of the ones, kind of like a Melissa or a Prosper 10,
Yep.
15 years ago, where it's yet to really boom population wise. But
Well, it's
there's some
getting there.
talent. There's some talent out there. Peyton Miller is certainly one of the more talented guys that's out there at Anaheim. I would say it's safe to say he is the most talented, certainly the most coveted across the country. But definitely expect Bill Bedenbaugh and the Sooners to stay right there towards the top in his process over the next year and a half.
Yeah, and I would probably go along with you. Peyton Miller was obviously really impressive. I think I walked up to you and I was like, "Is that the Anna kid?" And you're like, I was like, "Is that the most ballyhooed Anna kid of all time?" Because we were discussing how little comes out of Anna, Texas, and but that's probably going to change, obviously, as that town continues to explode. But Ismail Kamara out of Gilmore, um, originally from I think France, if I remember correctly, he is a dude, and he plays with a nasty streak. It's really. I was trying to equate who am I, and then I got to thinking after you and I talked the other day. Think about who was the most. Let's go back to 2024, and was it 23? Think about an Orlando offensive lineman that had a really good personality and had a connection to Trent Williams.
Peyton Kirkland, 2023.
Their personalities, the way they interact with the media, the way they are just super intense when it's their turn to go, was very much Peyton Kirkland. Just to a T, man. And then the body frame, he's got a better body than Peyton Kirkland had. He moves better than Peyton Kirkland moved. However, I just loved the fact that he could like flip a switch, come over and talk to us and be like just jolly as could be, and then turn around and go, "I'm going to whoop your ass," right before the ball snapped. And then he would do it and then clap in their face. And I think that is the type of guy that fits Bill Beatenbow very much. Like he loves those nasty, like edgy type players. And Ishmael Kamara is that guy. Very, very much so. Um, Jalen Brewster, defensive tackle, uh, arguably maybe the top defensive tackle in 2027. I don't, it depends on who you're talking to. I know some people say he is the top. I think we have him 5 or 6 at Rivals, which I think when you're up that high, I don't think it really matters. Like you're just, splitting hairs at that point. But the thing with him, Connor Scruggs and Ishmael Kamara was the fact that they didn't shy away from competition. They were lining up and trying to go up against each other because they felt they were the best. And I think that to me is something that if you're an Oklahoma fan, you want that type of player. And number two, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you should be pretty happy because you are number one for Jalen Brewster. And
Mhm.
he brings up Oregon, but it's not close. He is not a kid that I could see leaving to that far away from his family. Just can't see it. If you know the kid, his personality doesn't fit Oregon. It doesn't fit that far. Now, I may get shocked a year and a half down the line or a year down the line, and he may decide he wants to commit to Oregon. Whatever. Right now, Oklahoma, Todd Bates, they've made him priority. He says he's going to visit not just once, twice, but he's going to camp at Oklahoma. So you've got the June 10th or 12th, he said he's going up. He's coming back for the Sooners Under the Stars in July, and he's going for a camp. So there's that. Oklahoma, fantastic spot for one of the top defensive tackles in 2027. So, um, yeah, I think 27 kind of ruled the roost at the Rivals camp, to be honest. Like, there was more 27 guys than there were 26s. Uh, Another Kirkland, Devontre Kirkland out of Waco, 2027. Defensive back out of University High School down there. Baylor, Oklahoma, naturally from Waco. I
Hmm.
reached out to a few people in Norman. They feel really good about that situation. Kirkland tells me he's going to announce before summer's over. I think, and he says he's going to Sooners Under the Stars. That's literally the last week of July, right before football season starts.
Do the
Um,
math there.
we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Next week could be a big week for Oklahoma, Parker. And a big week in the fact that the droughts may end.
It very well may. Now, I will say, man, I'm not taking it to the bank with Ryan Gilbert just yet.
No,
And the reason
no.
being, like, I got the future cast on Oklahoma, but we all just saw what SMU pulled off with Alger Miles, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think you really you see that top three that he released a couple days ago, and Houston's nothing to sneeze at. Like, you're not worried about Houston. It's fair to be worried about SMU, especially because you remember who he committed to Texas A&M alongside the first time around. It was him and Markel Ford that
That's
committed
right.
within hours of each other. Who's Markel Ford committed to these days?
SMU.
SMU. So
There's a
again,
different reason why they're committed, though, right? Like, I
oh,
think we should
certainly.
explain
Like,
that.
yeah, no, it's not the exact same situation by any means. But again, SMU, and we've been talking about it for months, Brandon, and you saw it this past weekend with Alger Miles. SMU is poised to be a real thorn in Oklahoma's side with some of these DFW area
Mm-hmm.
prospects for years to come, and that may very well start. And I guess it has started here in the 2026 cycle. So, although I feel good right now about Oklahoma and Ryan Gilbert, it's one of those deals where, like everybody would love to be told, oh, it's over. OU's got him in the bag. Nothing to see here, nothing to worry about. I'm curious over the next week or so how that all transpires and whether SMU can, well, upset the apple cart in a sense for Oklahoma in that
Yeah.
regard.
So, how confident are you? I guess let's dive into that.
I would say 60 to 70%
That's about
confident
where
right
I'm
now.
at. Yeah, that's about where I'm at. Um, I feel pretty good about the situation. I think Oklahoma feels pretty good about the situation. They're pushing fairly hard, but I think let's dive into this because you got Bagman in the comments saying recruiting battles with SMU. This isn't your mama and daddy's SMU. Well, actually, it is your mama and daddy's SMU, to
Yes,
be
it
honest.
is. Well, if your mommy and daddy
It's
are
not
OC
our
fans, then
SMU.
yes.
It's the SMU whenever I was a kid. What they were doing whenever I was a kid, and right at the very beginning of my life, they were dominating a lot of this area in recruiting because they were the original Pony Excess, if you will.
Hmm.
And um, was it Lockwood or Sherwood? What was his name? I can't remember his name. You know, I'm talking about the donor that
Yes, I
coerced
couldn't
and
tell you.
and made all the payments or whatnot. That's where they're at now. I mean, it's they have long been a program and a university that has like Ivy League type money. It's scary. And now that they're in the ACC, the second they got into the ACC, I think people needed to realize right then and there that they were going to become a player. And if there is anything that makes you think otherwise, think about, I think it was 23 when they came to Norman and Oklahoma beat them 28-10. They ended up going 10-2 that year, mind you. They were pretty good. Did they not make the playoffs last year?
They did make the playoffs. That did indeed happen.
I mean, sniff at it, scoff at it, do whatever y'all want to do. But SMU is here to stay. As long as they're in a Power Four, they're back in a very scary way.
Yeah, well, and like, here's the reality of the NIL era. You're going to be in recruiting battles with schools that you've never been in legit recruiting battles with before. Can we all
yeah,
acknowledge that?
yeah. Welcome to
That
NIL.
to a certain extent, that levels the playing field, especially when you have I mean, I think back to like the Williams Winery recruitment, right? In a world without NIL, what are the odds that kid chooses the University of Missouri over the University of Oklahoma? From where I stand, pretty minimal. But that was kind of the great equalizer in the recruitment,
Yeah.
right? Um, look at the number one player in the 2026 class right now. Well, according to some other services, in Zion Ely, the talented edge rusher from out in the Baltimore area. He's committed to the University of Maryland right now. I mean, I'm not going to say that's all because of the monetary aspect of things, but I feel you can safely conclude, right, that uh, having the Under Armour backing out there at
Yeah.
Maryland certainly isn't hurting the Terrapins when it comes to some of those high profile recruiting battles, like the one that they waged for Zion Ely, and certainly the one that they are waging right now for 5-star offensive tackle Emmanuel Ihenicho.
Man, if only Brian Bishop could have kept big time sports rolling back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know. Please get in the comments if you remember big time sports. Please, please, please get in the comments if you remember big time sports. I actually have some. Bishop gave me, when he was moving to Houston, gave me some of his um, old time apparel because I told him, like, it was just like something that I wore because it became like kind of a big brand there for a little bit, and it was starting to catch waves. Like, Parker, college teams were wearing big time sports logos on their jerseys. Like, that's what it was becoming. And yeah, I hope somebody in the comments remembers it. Um anyways, uh yeah, the NIL's changed everything. You said you wanted to talk softball. Um do How confident are you that Oklahoma wins the SEC tournament?
I don't know if confident is the right word. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's fair to say this OU softball team is the steamroller that they have been the last few years, but still a program that won the regular season title in the SEC, finished 43-7 in the regular season, and they're
Mm-hmm.
going to be right there in the thick of things for a national title.
Yeah.
You would be surprised if they don't at least make the Women's College World Series, and would it be all too shocking if they were there in the championship series fighting for number 5 in a row? No, it wouldn't. And do they have the star power that they have had in recent years? Certainly not. But in the postseason, man, the things you can lean on are the things that Oklahoma still has, which is they have experience, they have players that have been in those moments before,
Yeah.
they have the best coach in the history of the sport, they're resilient, and they play good situational softball.
They do. I think pitching is the biggest, you know,
Mm-hmm.
question mark for me as
Not what it
far
has
as
been.
no, it's not even near dominant what it has been over the years. I was just trying to look up the pitching stats as it is right now. But yeah, I look, I don't know. If you are Oklahoma, you're in good shape because one, you get the bye, you get Mississippi State, LSU, right? You get that winner. Um, and that's actually tomorrow. Have who won that actually? I didn't even see today who won the Mississippi State LSU game
LSU
today.
won.
LSU.
Yeah.
So they get LSU. Um, Tennessee is probably going to be who you play. And the weird part about it is like well, I think it's the crazy part about it is Tennessee's the fourth seed in the SEC. Look where they're ranked in the top 25. Think about that. Like they were ranked number one for a good portion of the season. You got Texas, who was ranked number one for a while, Oklahoma, who was ranked number one for a while. Those are three of the top four, and obviously Texas A&M's been fluctuating between, 3 and 8, 9 all year, 10, 10ish. Um, that top four is going to be a gauntlet, dude. That is a gauntlet. I'm not a fan of how the SEC does it in rotating the on campus, like, because you're not getting all your money's worth. And I know this sounds stupid, and the SEC people will push back at this, but why would you not? If you're the SEC, why would you not take advantage of the situation at Devon Park? It doesn't make sense to me. The nicest, biggest, you understand the second biggest softball stadium is also in Oklahoma in Loves. Why would you not take advantage of that? You could play both of those, and I get that gives Oklahoma home field advantage. I don't really care about that. I care about like if you're trying to grow the sport, don't you want the audience to look like it's in a bigger stadium on television?
Yeah, but there are already enough people that complain about Oklahoma having a home field
Oh,
advantage.
I
It's
get it. I get
OKC.
that.
You
I
can't
get
you
that.
can't very well play you can't very well have them play at Love's Field, especially when they're in the middle of this dynastic run that they're on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a different conversation in 5 years.
Yeah. Tim Martin actually said, I forgot Texas A&M was number one for a week. I forgot about that actually. Um, I don't know, man. I still think Oklahoma wins the SEC tournament, much like they won. I think there's an aura about them. I think there is I don't know. I think Parker got hot at the right time, the perfect time for Oklahoma. And if L. Parker stays hot, I think you got a really good chance just because you have that killer that anytime they come up to bat, it's game changer. Um, does Bo Bentley take his Georgia visit?
No. No, I don't believe he
I
does.
don't believe it does either.
No, I think it'll be
But
OU and
nothing's really
LSU.
been said. Like it's been, I think it's understood more
Hmm.
than anything else. But that whole situation, I think people need to understand the domino effect that's about to start with the quarterback situation. Now you got to worry about LSU. If you're Oklahoma, now that okay, and I wrote this in a piece today. I think they should. You have that June 6th visit opened up now. Oklahoma has a big horde of visitors coming in. Why would you not try to pull a Clemson? If you really want Bo Bentley, pull a Clemson and just get him on campus early, early, early. Where it's not you're not the only person on campus. He gets
Well,
to feel the vibe of the whole big visit the way everybody else does and get to start building a relationship with his potential teammates.
yeah, I mean, there's some merit to that. I mean, the other side of the coin is, well, the 13th through the 15th is still earlier than the LSU visit, so you still have the opportunity to get him locked in before he ever makes it around to LSU. You have the chance to convince him while he's there on campus that weekend not to take the LSU visit. And like it's kind of a matter of philosophy, right? I don't think there's a right answer. Do you want him around the other recruits, or do you want to emphasize to him by virtue of the presence of literally no one else, that he is the priority. It's different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. No,
And
I
so
get that.
this is the way that Oklahoma wants to play their hand, and we'll see if it's successful. At this point, we don't have much context for how this is going to go down, especially because
Right.
we don't have a whole lot of context for what type of a recruiter Ben Arbuckle actually is. I mean, yeah, he got Jet New. Credit to him for that, certainly. But all it took was one phone call to Jet New saying, "Hey, come to the University of Oklahoma," and he was all in, right?
Hmm.
So this is kind of where we get to see Ben Arbuckle's chops as a recruiter for the very first time.
The irony in the Jet News situation is that his brother committed to the school that he was originally committed to.
Yep. Well,
I would I I hate saying this, but like I
I know where you're going with this.
yeah, I'm not gonna say it. I think you could probably read where my mind was going,
Hmm.
but there's probably a good chance of that happening down the road. It only makes sense. Um, I don't know, man. Like, I guess outside of Gilbert, who's the next person to hop on board for Oklahoma in 26?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, I think at that point you have to start looking at who's on tap for an OV that weekend of June 6th through the 8th, and who might be willing to just go ahead and shut it down without taking the
Mm-hmm.
rest of their visits. I was like, it's a good sign. It is an unambiguously good sign that Pupungatoa Katoa did not commit to SMU while he was on his OV this past
Yep.
weekend. I thought there was a definite chance of that happening, and it didn't. So, gonna have a shot at him at this point once he comes around on that 6th through the 8th weekend. Noah Best is another
That's who
guy that I
I.
think, yeah, like, I mean, I would say he's probably the most likely
Yeah.
to me to shut it down, but there could always be one of those guys, right, where they're just they're overwhelmed by everything. They love it. They don't, I mean, they get caught up in the moment, for lack of a better descriptor, and they just decide, yep, this is it for me. And you could see that happening to a guy, especially a guy that maybe hasn't been around to Oklahoma
Mm-hmm.
at all or a ton. A guy like Tavian Branch, for instance, who's coming down from the state of Pennsylvania. Do
That's
you
a good
maybe
one.
just does he maybe just find himself blown away by the Oklahoma experience? Does that happen for Adam Balogun Ali, who's
Uh,
from Oklahoma but
Tank
hasn't been,
Carrington.
yeah, but hasn't been back to campus in years? Tank Carrington is another guy
He
that
loves
fits that bill.
Oklahoma. Yep.
Yeah. So there are there are possibilities there, man. I think, who knows, things go well enough with Deacon Schmidt.
Jabari Brady.
Is he even going to make it in?
Yeah, I don't know if he really makes it in. But he's on the list. I mean, like he right now. At least he scheduled it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's going to take place. He loved his original visit. Um, Obviously, he was there when Daniel Odom committed. I think it's all gonna with Jabari Brady. It's all gonna contend on where things stand with Jaden O'Neal at that point. And you have to remember, Jaden O'Neal. I believe he's at Florida State on the 13th when Bo Bentley's set to OV Oklahoma. Jaden O'Neal is OVing Florida State. I will add that Oklahoma and Jaden O'Neal are starting to move in the right direction in a good way. But if Bo Bentley does decide to commit to Oklahoma, whether they switch the OV to June 6th, whether he sticks with June 13th and he doesn't take the LSU visit, you can probably, yeah, it's going to be hard to keep Jaden O'Neal.
Hmm.
It just is. And it's really unfortunate how loyal he's been. And I'm going to always say that just because he was very loyal to Oklahoma for such a long time. And I know there'll be some people going, well, he took visits. He didn't take visits until Oklahoma was taking visits from Bo Bentley. Like we're just being honest. And so like I think and you can't fault either side by the way
No, no, you can't.
because Oklahoma wants four guys in their room and they're not going to have it unless they take 2 and 26. How many times can they luck into a transfer? You don't want your second string guy. I don't want to say you don't want. You would rather not have your second string guy. You would rather it be a Bo Bentley or Jaden O'Neal other than a Jet New. And that's not a knock on Jet New or whatever FCS transfer that they could go grab. Because there's not a lot of Cole Gonzalez's out there. They're just going to go, oh, yeah, I'll come sit behind Michael Hawkins or John Mateer. Just not going to happen. So it's a it's a precarious situation for both sides. Very, very precarious.
Well, I will say adding Whit Neubauer may change the calculus a little bit because if Jetnu sticks around and Neubauer sticks around, and I know you can't really count on anybody sticking around for longer than a year at this point, so you're gonna have to play that
Well,
by
you
ear.
can, it's just not at quarterback unless they're playing.
Say what now?
You can unless they're quarterback that's playing. If they're sitting behind players, quarterbacks don't like to wait anymore.
No, no, they don't. But if you have Neubauer, Jetnu, and either Michael Hawkins or John Mateer on the roster next year, because I don't think it's both, then you bring in one freshman and you're good. You have your four right there. So um, I think the addition of Neubauer, like having Neubauer in the room, diminishes the necessity of going to grab a second quarterback in the
Mhm.
2026 cycle. It's still a route you can go because maybe you don't have the expectation that Neubauer is around longer than a year, or that I don't know, Jet New is around longer than a year. Although I've gotten every impression that Jet New is in it for the long haul at Oklahoma, but Neubauer shows up with 3 years of eligibility left, right? And he'll probably have 3 years of eligibility left at the end of the 2025 season because, in all likelihood, he's going to be able to take a red shirt. It's hard to fathom him playing in more than 4 games for Oklahoma. So
Yeah.
you have two guys with a ton of eligibility left stacked on the back end of your bench there in Jet New and Whit Neubauer. And so whatever happens this year with John Mateer, whether he is ready to make the jump to the NFL and hand the reins clean off to Michael Hawkins, or whether he wants to stick around, which, if we're being frank, would probably prompt Michael Hawkins to
Yep.
explore other options, then you look at Bo Bentley and or Jaden O'Neal, whoever it may be in the 2026 cycle, as the guy that kind of rounds out the quarterback room in 2026 and beyond.
So, I mean, do you push for Bo Bentley then? If you already have Jaden O'Neal in the fold and you know you've got the opportunity to potentially already have four, what's the point?
Hang on, what now? Say this again.
What's the point if you think Whit Neubauer is going to end up sticking around or potentially stick around, and Jet New does as well? You're going to have one of two of Mateer or Hawkins returning. That's three, and it changes the calculus, like you said. There's another reason why you do it, but I'm not going to publicly say that either. So you would push one of those two would be pushed out.
I mean, I think it's clear at this point that Bentley is somebody that Arbuckle wants. You
I
know,
agree.
like eh, Arbuckle didn't choose Jaden O'Neal. Like that can be acknowledged, and that should be acknowledged. Like Arbuckle
Mm.
didn't choose Jaden O'Neal; he inherited Jaden O'Neal, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not to say he wants Jaden O'Neal on the first Greyhound bus out of town,
No, he wants
but
Jaden O'Neal
yeah,
very badly, actually.
yeah, but
Well,
um, evidently his desire to add Bo Bentley overrides his desire to keep Jaden O'Neal at all costs. I think if you
mhm.
can say nothing else, you can say that. Ben Arbuckle, if it comes down to it, like he is willing to pursue Bo Bentley at the risk of losing Jaden O'Neal,
Yeah.
which I think kind of speaks to where the priorities lie, for better or worse.
Yeah, yeah, they're both really good quarterbacks. Um, so again, Noah Best, Tank Carrington, obviously we're looking at. The, Oklahoma's putting in a lot of work with Talanoa Ely or Talanoa Ely out of Hawaii, linebacker, four-star linebacker, Rivals 250 linebacker out of Hawaii. There is a part of me that thinks Oklahoma has a decent chance because you don't keep going out there and wasting your time unless you feel somewhat decent about your opportunity. Oregon is the I think they're in the catbird seat for him. I think
Really?
everybody
I think it's
agrees.
USC.
They were two for me from what I've heard. I always was told Oregon, USC 1, 2, and then Oklahoma was kind of three ish in there. Um, they like Oklahoma a lot though. They're really big Brent Venables people. Really big Brent Venables people. Now they're starting to beat Nate Dreiling people, and I talked to his dad a couple weeks ago, and he said like when he came out here, I had no idea that was like their third visit to Oklahoma. And so this will be the official on June 6th through the 8th will be number 4. That's kind of interesting. I think the fact you still have Dylan Gabriel coming back to Oklahoma, I sat literally like probably 7 seats down from him. He was like 2 rows in front of me and 7 seats down at the Thunder game the other day. He was right on the court. And he the fact he keeps coming back, I think that bodes well for Hawaii recruiting. I think he could still help, but is he really going to butt in if it becomes an Oregon Oklahoma battle and tell them which one to choose or give his advice at the end of the day? That's a tough spot for Dylan. I mean, that's a conundrum you run into when you're transferring. If you have love for both, does one supersede the other? It's the Jalen Hurts situation with Alabama Oklahoma as well.
Well, and it's also fair to acknowledge, and it should be acknowledged, that USC and Oregon are two of the schools that have built the strongest pipelines to the islands.
Yes, in Samoans, period.
Hmm.
Outside of
And you
Utah.
figure it like accessibility has a lot to do with that in an
Yeah.
original sense, but once you get it going, it kind of feeds itself, right?
Well, they fly to LA.
Hmm.
That's where their connection flights is. So that makes it a lot easier when you're flying to a place to connect and you don't have to connect to go anywhere and you go straight to the campus. Life is easy from that standpoint. If Oklahoma could somehow figure out a way to, if Will Rogers could somehow figure out a way to have a straight flight to Hawaii, it would make things a lot easier. Distance still matters though, because that's a long flight. I think it's like 8 hours.
Oh
So
my goodness. Yeah. Lengthy flight to be
yeah.
certain.
Have you done
Uh,
that before? Have you been to Hawaii?
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's the one place I haven't been, man.
Really. It
Yeah,
is. Yeah, it is. It feels like forever you are on that plane.
really
But then you
interesting.
land and it's awesome. There have been some new offers lately, and most
Yeah,
notably, some offers that have come straight from Jim Nagy's office.
starting to see that quite a bit actually.
Isn't that an interesting dynamic?
He swore that wasn't going to happen, by the way. They were going to agree. Sometimes you have
Well,
to supersede your evals, right?
yeah, I mean, this is the NFL model, right?
Yep.
Like, and there's no recruiting in the NFL. There's only the draft and free agency and the trade market, right? But anyway you slice it, in the NFL, the front office gathers the talent,
Mm-hmm.
the coaching staff develops the talent.
Yeah.
And so, might this be a signal that Oklahoma, when it comes to recruiting, is shifting toward a more NFL oriented model, whereby the coaches are less responsible, still involved, no doubt, but less responsible for the evaluation and the recruiting, and more so responsible for just getting the most out of the guys once they get to campus.
Yeah, and look, he hit the nail on the head, right? I want to say um, he was the main offer for was it Dallas Dickerson, right?
Dallas
And
Dickerson.
yeah, and now look, Dallas Dickerson's a 4-star. Like he was a 3-star,
He
kind
was a
of
0 star.
zero, yeah, kind of flying under the radar with a whole bunch of services. Oklahoma comes around and offers, then Florida comes in. Who else came in shortly after that? Um, was others?
Georgia Tech offered,
Georgia Tech.
Duke
Georgia Tech was the
offered.
other one, and Duke. Yeah, all in the same day, by the way. Oklahoma offered, then bam, 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 bam. All these other people offered, and then he blew up, 4-star instantly within days. The good news is it sounds like he's visiting Oklahoma on June 20th. Um, Parker, you talked to him. If Georgia offers, is it over?
It's not, no way. It's not over, but I would lean Georgia if the Bulldogs get involved. I don't know when his OU official visit is going to be yet. He doesn't know when his OU official visit is going to be yet. He's going to take one, but he's already got 4 OVs lined up for the month of June to Wisconsin, Kentucky, Kansas State, and Indiana. So
Yeah,
there are at least a couple of those that are probably going to get bumped in favor of Oklahoma and Florida. It's just kind of a matter of which ones.
gotcha. Okay, so before we close this out, I want to really dive into this question. People are saying they thought it was going to be easier when Brent Venables got to Oklahoma when it comes to recruiting linebackers. I think everybody did. But at the same time, I think the linebacker room has never been like a major issue. It's always been really talented.
No, it hasn't. Like there's never been a time outside of 2022 when there was just no depth there, and that's not
Yeah.
Venables' fault. He got what he inherited.
Hmm.
Uh, there hasn't been a time outside of I would say the early stages of that 2022 season where you felt like the linebacker room was a weakness for this program. The Sooners have
Right.
been great at linebacker the last 2 years, and they haven't really needed to reload. This is the first class where it feels like they definitely need to reload. They
Hmm.
need to take 3 linebackers, as I
Hmm.
see it. And I
They're
think
only
to their
supposed to take two, from my understanding. I was told that
mm,
from about as good as you can get.
I would bet you they take 3.
Well, transfers. I think transfers are going to play into this heavily as
I
well.
would bet you they take 3 high school linebackers. I think I the sheer number of offers that they've handed out and the sheer number of linebackers that are going to be taking OVs to Oklahoma to me suggests that they're going for 3. Um, Ja'Cory Smith, Bo Jandro, Adam Balogun Ali,
I
Braxton
agree.
Lindsey. Like
I'm just
it,
telling you where it came from. They said two. They have two for that room right now.
it could be a multiplicity of different guys, but I think Nate Dreiling, to his credit, has done an exceptional job of just casting a broad net and making sure that his class isn't going to hinge, is not going to live or die with
Right.
the decision from 1 or 2 dudes.
Okay. Now, I want to throw a caveat to this two thing, and they may have been talking interior linebackers because when look, there's separate people coach separate. Like Wes Godwin is essentially the cheetah outside linebacker guy. Nate Dreiling is the inside linebacker guy for Oklahoma. So maybe there's two inside, maybe there's two outside, maybe they take four total. I don't know how that works. I'm just telling you what they told me, and I was just going, that's not. I even put it on the board, and I was like, I don't know how they can get away with that, other than they think they're going to take maybe two or three transfers as well, and really spend as far as transfers goes along, which also could be something you do. But the scary part about that is in Brent Venables' defense, you need somebody on the inside that's been within that system to get everybody else where they need to be, because playing linebacker for Brent Venables is one of the hardest things you can do in all of college football, because it's such an intricate and such a detailed defense that everything matters. And you better know everything and everyone that's going on that field, whether it's the hash and like what they're going to do on 2nd and 10, right hash, the tendencies, the percentages, all that. You're in charge of making those calls and changing things up. So that's the scary part of taking a transfer and just throwing them out there. You better find somebody that is smart, 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 and understands it. Um, there was another thing I was going to talk about just a second ago, but doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, are we good? We good for
I
tonight?
know
You
you're
got
eager to go watch some Thunder basketball, so I guess we
They're
haven't
up
quite
30.
made
I
it to
don't really like
9:30, but we
they're
can
up
we can wrap it up a little early.
they're up 30 right now. They're
Really?
killing it. Yeah, they're killing it.
Okay. Well,
So at least last I checked, they were up 30 or like 28, 27, something like that. Somebody in the chat can tell us.
hope they don't blow it.
Oh my God. That wouldn't shock me. They had a 14-point lead the other night and blew it. So there's that. Anyways, hey, I do want to thank everybody for coming on here. I know it's, tough if you're a Thunder fan, if you're any part of NBA, when these games are going on, it's tough to watch. I get it. But we appreciate everybody viewing this. And those that are watching it afterwards, thank you guys for watching it. We do it because of you guys. Thank you so much. Um, if you're not a member of OU Insider, if you're a college student, .edu, email us, ouinsider@rivals.com. From your .edu, we will email you a promo code for $11.95 for the whole year. If you're active duty military, we'll do the same. Email us, ouinsider@rivals.com. From your active duty, and we'll send you a promo code for $11.95. That's less than $1 a month for a whole year. It's a great deal. Everybody else, $9.95 a month, $99.95 for the whole year. I want to thank Refine You Med Spa as well for sponsoring everything at OU Insider, whether it's the message board, whether it's the podcast. Uh, Give them a call at Refine You or go to refineyouokc.com to check out everything that they do for you. It's a med spa. It's great for weight loss. You got scars, you got everything, whether it's skin tags, sunspots, all that. They remove all that for you. They do a really good job with dieting. I've lost a lot of weight dieting. They put me on nutrition, all that type of stuff. It's been really good. So I want to thank them so much for doing that. Or call them at 405-849-5391 because they don't just sell procedures, they sell results. Lastly, I guess we got a super chat,
We
Parker,
did
before
from
we went
Boomer
out.
Shoop 99, who dropped us
Appreciate you, Shoop.
$100 at the end of the
You're
stream.
the man.
He said, appreciate your hard work, guys. Don't forget to shout out mothers for this weekend.
Oh,
We usually
yes.
sign the recruit when moms endorse the program. Happy Mother's Day, y'all.
Happy Mother's. Thank you, Shoop. Thank you so much. Yeah, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. My wife, my mom, my mother-in-law. Love you guys. Thank you guys for everything that you do for us moms. All right. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live, powered by Riverwind Casino. For Parker Thune, for Spencer Forsythe, my name's Brandon Drumm. You guys have a blessed day.